Hi, my name is Anna, and I am addicted to sugar. I bet you a lot of you guys could say that. It's Dr. Toker, your friendly neighborhood colorectal surgeon, and I do blame my mother for this problem because she is a dentist, and there was never any sugar in our house. My brother and I are both addicted to sugar. It is 4 times more addicting than cocaine. And why is that? What is fascinating is that in the 70s, back when we were all thin, do you remember those days? There was a big push to quote unquote feed the world. We had a bumper crop corn. We didn't know what to do with this corn. They were turning corn into gasoline additives, and then they were turning corn into fructose, which is a sweetener that now everything, instead of having sugar, has fructose. Now, the health industry was telling us, well, fructose has a lower glycemic index. Okay, and everyone bought that. Lower glycemic, that's better for you. And yet it's yummy and sweet. That is amazing. As we have made this switch, we have all gotten much, much heavier. Fatty liver disease is the #1 cause of liver failure. Metabolic disease is something that didn't even exist as an entity clinically in the 70s and 80s. Now, at least half of the population has metabolic disease. What is that? That's a combination of obesity, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, and fatty liver disease is one of those components. Okay, so what's causing all that? Probably, amongst other things, this switch from sugar, which is glucose, sucrose, to pure fructose. Now, what is the glycemic index? Let's talk about that because that was the selling point. Fructose is a very low glycemic food. Now, the glycemic index measures your blood glucose and therefore your insulin response. Well, fructose is not glucose, it's a completely different thing. So when you consume fructose, you get elevated fructose concentrations in your blood. That's not necessarily in the same pathway as insulin. This is part of what makes fructose dangerous. When you consume fructose, it gets absorbed primarily into the system through the small intestine. In high doses, it goes to the colon. It can negatively impact your microbiome, but that floods to the liver, and your liver doesn't really know how to metabolize that and can lead to fatty liver disease. Once your liver is chock full of fat, you really are going to struggle to control any manner of blood sugar. Most processed foods will combine some fructose as well as sucrose, other carbohydrates, and seed oil. So when you combine these carbohydrates, seed oils, in the presence of a fatty liver, you're only getting obese, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So there is a big difference between fructose and glucose. Table sugar is half glucose and half fructose. High fructose corn syrup is all fructose. So therein lies the difference. That little shift, getting rid of the sucrose and going pure on fructose, has caused significant damage to our physiology. So, doctor, what would you do that is different? Well, a little bit of fructose is not really going to be your problem, especially when you consume it in fruit as it was meant to be. Now, I'm not talking about fruit juice. I'm talking about eating an apple or eating an orange. When you combine fiber with fructose, then most of that fructose is going to be utilized by the bacteria in your GI tract in the presence of the fiber. You're really not going to have much of a problem. When you isolate the high fructose in your system is when it causes the fatty liver. So the first thing to do is, it's not to fear fruit. You eat a fresh piece of fruit. That is fine. The second thing you want to do is read your labels and make sure there's no high fructose corn syrup present. You are better off with cane sugar than you are with high fructose corn syrup. If you can get something that's sweetened with pure stevia, you're better off than with cane sugar. If you can sweeten something with honey, you are better off than with cane sugar, to be honest. And if you can find a supplement called allulose, then that will not only sweeten things, but it serves as a prebiotic fiber for your microbiome. And that way your mouth is tasting sweetness and your gut is feeling the sweetness. Try not to add any sweeteners to your life. Eat a fresh piece of fruit from time to time. Use real honey, manuka honey, thyme honey. These things have the lowest glycemic index of the honeys, but they also serve to support your microbiome. If you got to have something that is a powder that you mix in water because maybe you don't like the taste of honey or you're allergic to honey, then try allulose.